Hey there everyone, it's GG Sober Sun. I'm kind of catching the sunset over the sound here. I'll probably see a bunch of cars driving by, but it's all good. June 26th. It's my big sister's birthday. We must know the nature of our weakness before we can determine how to deal with it. When we are honest about its presence, we may discover that it is imaginary and can be overcome by a change of thinking. We admit that we are alcoholics, and we would be foolish if we refused to accept our handicap and do something about it. So by honestly facing our weakness and keeping ever present the knowledge that for us, alcoholism is a disease with which we are afflicted, we can take the necessary steps to arrest it. Have I fully accepted my handicap? Well, it's funny because for as long as I've been in, I don't really see it as a handicap. I find it more of a superpower, really. I mean, yes, I drank myself into oblivion on far too many occasions. I drank myself into limerence over other people. I put people on pedestals. I had a distorted view of the world and the people in it, and I think a lot of that had to do with the amount of alcohol I was consuming on a daily basis. So it's, however, that very same quote-unquote affliction drove me into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, where I found a community of friends, of like-minded people that are moving in a positive direction. It's super important to acknowledge that. It's super important that not many people, even in churches, get that experience, that have that same experience. So it's really worthwhile to accept that, I can be of help when others can't, because of my shared experience with addicts and alcoholics. Now we can differentiate and say, well, you're just an addict or you're just an alcoholic, but really they both devastate equally. Different drugs devastate in different ways, but we can all come to the agreement that it can send us to hell in a handbasket for sure. But again, I think it's a superpower, really, in God's hands. Meditation for the day. There is a proper time for everything. I must learn not to do things at the wrong time. That is, before I am ready or before conditions are right. It is always a temptation to do something at once instead of waiting until the proper time. Timing is important. I must learn in the little daily situations of life to delay action until I am sure that I am doing the right thing at the right time. So many lives lack balance and timing. In the momentous decisions and crises of life, they may ask God's guidance, but into the small situations of life, they rush alone. Yeah, the small situations in life is when I really have to be mindful of exerting my will and asking God's will. And this is where all too often, I always thought that saying grace before a meal was a little too pious. I did it like when I was deployed and things like that. And I don't know, it just seems kind of pious, and and I would see guys that would say grace and cross themselves, and it's a comforting type thing to do, I think. But for me now, and I forget to do it all too often, it is just one of those moments where it's like, hey, this would be a good time to acknowledge God throughout my day, and I'm going through a book with my prayer team at my church called Pray First, and it's just a reminder that my relationship with God is ongoing. It's not just see you later in the morning, acknowledge, and then get on with my day and not think about that relationship or that connection. Yeah, and I was listening to it was a relationship podcast kind of thing, and about how some people, to stay in constant contact throughout the day is a little excessive kind of thing, but I'm so glad that God's not that way. It's anytime I tap in to the divine consciousness, and it's really just a matter of that. Sometimes it's just taking a breath and saying, not my will. So this morning I was going somewhere, and this woman decided to cross a very busy road as the light turned green, and it was like, oh my gosh, and I called her a ding-a-ling or something, or a dingbat or something like that, and I immediately felt like ashamed of myself. And was I right in being upset for her crossing when she did? It was just really ill-advised and ill-timed. Sure, I suppose by the world standard, but that one delay, and this is where I really believe in my faith, that one tiny delay may have saved me from an accident, or it may have prevented something. You know what I mean? It's like God is the creator of all time, and I don't think anything is a coincidence. So it's important to acknowledge that, Have I fully accepted? There is, did I already? Yeah. So there is a proper time for everything. And I don't think we can overemphasize a connection with the God of our understanding. That we can stay connected throughout the day, several times throughout the day is what it says in the big book. Especially when we get bound up and we feel as though, frustrated or whatever. Just say, thy will, not mine, be done. That's super important. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may delay action until I feel that I am doing the right thing. I pray that I may not rush in alone. Yeah, there's plenty of things that I feel like, I can take care of. But there is, where it talks about upon awakening, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially that of the divorce of self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives, that we may employ our mental faculties with assurance, knowing that our thoughts have been cleared of wrong motives. Now, that prayer can make us feel like, okay, well, I just set it and forget it, and then I apply my amazing magnifying mind throughout the day. Well, I don't think that's what that's saying, because then it does go on to say that, the occasional hunch or inspiration will gradually become a working part of the mind. It goes back to that gut feeling kind of thing. And it also kind of goes back to feelings, We can feel it in our gut a lot of times, how to be led. And the thing of it is, so many of us in recovery have come from tragically dysfunctional homes. So we have to learn a little bit more than some other people who had great homes growing up or whatever, who just eventually drank themselves to a point of oblivion and needing 12-step recovery work. Okay, so we have to learn how to feel our feels again. We have to really learn, and I'm still learning it. And as I mentioned before, I mean, the last time I had a drink was in 1992, right? But I've used so many other things to distract myself from my feelings, and that's why I was like going through these relationship podcasts and limerence and dealing with avoidant attachment types and anxious attachment types and stuff like that, and trying to figure out, like, do I even feel my feelings still, right? But I do know this, that every day I don't pick up a drink, I'm in with a chance. So I have an opportunity to live and love and learn and grow. As soon as I put alcohol in my system or any other kind of mind-altering, mood-altering substance, my emotional and social growth stops, because I stopped seeking other avenues of recovery and how to deal with my own emotions. So it's a live and love and learn and grow program, and I will keep coming back, y'all. Love you. Look up, aim up, rise up.